Hearing your story, I can see so many transitions in your career. One of the topics that we'll be talking about is about career transitions. But I think before we went there, one of the things that I also see in your career is that there are many facets, right? You started from maybe doing engineering, mechanical, software, and keeps on continuously improving and exploring. It's not just fitting into one particular role, but actually moving into multiple facets and seeing where you can grow further. Although eventually it met a plateau, but I think now you are an entrepreneur and you started this company called More Than Engineering. So tell us more. What is More Than Engineering does?
Yeah, so More Than Engineering is the name I put for what I do as a leadership and career coach, specifically for engineers and technology professionals. And the more than piece is this idea of like, okay, engineering might be this professional identity that you might have as an engineer technology professional, but want to look at the whole person. Look at who are you? What are you trying to become beyond just building your technical skills, which is absolutely important. But what about in leadership, personal development? What do you want to do in your community or other ways you want to give and support? Like, who do you want to become? This is really trying to take this larger holistic approach to personal development, but coming from hey, I've got this broad range of experience in the engineering and technology world, but I've also now developed a very wide tool belt of things that we can do to look at where you're at and where you want to get to. How do we make that happen? A lot of that is around career development, people trying to say, hey, I'm not really happy with where I'm at right now. How do I do that? Or I'm trying to grow in my leadership approach, building a new team, trying to grow these certain skills. How do we do that in a sustainable way instead of just prescribing behaviors, things to do? Okay, try this, trying to look at how do we make this actually a transformational experience for you? And so that's really the essence of what we're trying to do.
One of the things when I went to your website, you have this career checklist. You call it Engineering Careers Checklist. It's very interesting to me because I didn't have that checklist, nor that I thought about having a checklist before I went into engineering. So tell us more, why do you have this career checklist and what's the purpose? How does it help someone to decide whether engineering is the career for them?
Yeah, so I call it the Engineering Career Clarity Checklist. What this is really designed for is those people who are at those points who are saying, I wonder if there's more to what my career could look like rather than just showing up, getting a paycheck and going home and watching Netflix or staying home and watching Netflix if you're working from home. Because engineers and technology professionals have a huge amount of versatility. I mean, I'm an example of that, of like all the different areas I've done. But I've talked to so many engineers who have done so many different things across different technology disciplines, across different roles they've played. They can go deep into tech, they can stay broad, they can work across products, they can work across projects, large programs, leading large teams, whatever that turns into. But there are plenty of people who are like, I know something needs to change, but I don't know what that actually is. How do I find alignment in that so that I'm actually really enjoying? Because I know what I want is to actually wake up and feel excited about work, where right now I'm feeling like I'm being drained and not excited about that at all. So a career clarity idea is like, okay, how do we find that? Two analogies I'll use as ways of thinking: either clarity like a North Star, like the things that you really want to get to that kind of keeps you aligned with where you're going. Or maybe another way to look at it is a set of filters of things like what's really important to you. So as opportunities or things come your way, how do you run those through your filters and see if they meet criteria that are right for you? If so, let's continue to explore. If not, then don't waste any more time on there because you've already identified those things that are most important to you. So there's a number of different tools within that. It's a checklist of activities and exercises you can use to really do some introspective work and identify that North Star, those set of filters that you need to use so that you can get the clarity with where you want to go.
So some of the things that you advocate in the checklist is finding the why. Maybe many of us get to work to get paycheck and go on with our lives. I'm not sure whether all engineers really have a clear goal in mind before they start a career. So tell us more about, why do we need to find the why, and what are some of the whys that engineering should think about by becoming an engineer?
Yeah. And this could be becoming an engineer or a certain type of engineer or engaging like in a certain industry or something if that's really important to you. This comes from a tool that I used when I was in manufacturing, where a lot of times there was a problem on the manufacturing line or something. We need to dive into the root cause of it. We use a tool that's pretty common called the 5 whys to dive into root cause analysis and saying, okay, you initially look at what the problem is that you think is the problem. And then you keep asking, well, why is that? Well, why is that? And you keep going deeper and deeper. We can use the same tool, these 5 whys. You can go more than five and say, okay, what's the goal you have? Something you want to get to. But then what we're trying to do is unlock what's the deeper level of intrinsic motivation? What's really the driver for you that's pushing you to want to make this goal? And I've had people have all sorts of different answers to this in the end, from, hey, I really want to find something that's exciting for me in my career because I watched my parents both hate their careers through their lives. And I grew up with that and I hated that. And I don't want that to be how I end up for the rest of my career. And so I want to find this alignment. That's one type of answer. Another person said, you know what? I want to find my happy place in my career. I don't know what that is, but I'm trying to figure that out. Another person who was really passionate about sustainable energy and things like that. And so they were making the move from medical devices over to green energy and buildings and things like that, because they recognized that's an industry that was very important to them that they wanted to be actively involved in. Other people will want to work on certain types of products or things like this, or other people want to get involved in scale, or it's really about their opportunities for personal growth and different opportunities that are going to help them do that because they don't want to feel stagnant. So it can be all sorts of things. But the question is, like, what is it for you that really drives you to want to get up and go and do things in your career? And so identifying that deeper level why can be really powerful.
There are so many things that you mentioned just now that people look for in their jobs. So I think the key here is to find intrinsic motivation, how to align that with your career. It's not just some job that you need to do to get paycheck, but to get that fulfillment as well. Another thing that you mentioned in the checklist is that we need to find our genius zone. Tell us more, what is this genius zone and how do we use that?
Yeah. So put simply, the genius zone is where you do your best work. Okay. A couple different ways to look at this, and also recognize that your genius zone can evolve too as you go through different experiences. If you would have asked me 5 years ago about me, hey, can I do leadership and career coaching for engineers, like that wouldn't have been that, because it took me a few years of getting experience of doing training and kind of internal coaching and development inside of the company that I was at for a while, and kind of unlocking that piece of me. And then also having more experience on the technical side to have the broader range of things that allowed me to feel like, hey, I had the confidence that I could do this and I can put that together. So that's one way to look at it, is like these combinations of things that you're really good at. So you may be good at one particular type of software application or product development or leadership. You can look at those as separate things, but when you combine them, the combination of them creates something that's quite unique and different, because you have certain insights into financial institutions, if you're in fintech or something like that, or other types of industries. And so it's industry, it's passions, it's skills. When you combine them, do you have a unique value that you can bring where you can really deliver exceptional work, where you can do your best work? So that's one way to look at Genius Zone. Another way is to look at it like, okay, when do you feel like you kind of get in the zone or in a state of flow? If people are familiar with this, the idea of flow comes from a researcher by the name of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I think he passed away a few months ago. He's been quoted extensively on his research and flow. And it's like this combination of challenge and the skills that you bring to the table, you can kind of get in this flow state. But what is that for you? It's almost that time or those experiences or those things you work on, you hardly feel time passing, but you're just really in that zone because you're excited about things. And what is it that you're doing that unlocks that for you? Can we find ways to do more of that? Because that's something that you've got some natural inclinations, but also some skills that you've developed that really allow you to do some amazing work when you're in that space. How can we do more of that so you can really deliver your best value? So if we can identify that, then maybe we can find a role or an opportunity that can align and give you more opportunities to do your best work in that way.